Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Big Daily Blend and happy National Lovers Day. Everybody's got to be a lover somewhere. It is April 23rd, 2023, and we love our Big Daily Blend podcast because it really gives a glimpse of what is going on in the world, what's happened in the past on this day in history and pop culture history. We get to play music on our playlist, so check out the show notes wherever you're listening to this, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, BigBlendRadio.com, iHeartRadio, wherever you're listening, Podbean, all of those places. Look in the show notes. You're going to have links from there to playlists, music playlists on Spotify and YouTube. You'll have the recipe of the day, the puzzle of the day, the quote of the day, the park of the day, all kinds of cool things of the day because every day should be celebrated. And today we're very excited to have Joey Stuckey back on the show. Joey is awesome. He is an incredible musician. He is a composer, producer. Okay, take a deep breath. Radio and TV personality, a music columnist, an educator, sound engineer, singer, songwriter, blind guitarist, an award-winning one. And also, he is known for being the music ambassador for Macon, Georgia, which is known as the Southern Rock Capital of the world. Keep up with Joey. Go to joeystuckey.com. So welcome back, Joey. How are you?
I'm well, my friend. It's always a pleasure to be in your company. You did forget one thing when you list all those things. Yeah, I'm also sexy as Elvis with half the fat.
Oh, check it out, everybody.
I'm talking about fat Elvis.
He's rocking it. He is rocking. Nancy watched something about Elvis and his colon yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
I know, but
you must have been really bored that day.
I know, this is a good topic for a Sunday, right? Joey is here every fourth Sunday, and usually Nancy is here. Everybody knows Nancy, co-host, my mother, travel partner in crime, and right now she's doing a deadline on a magazine because we're about to travel off again. We're going east again, and you never know. We might knock on Joey's door and say, hey, Joey, what are you doing with
Always
that guitar
welcome,
in your
my friend.
hand?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, last time you were through this area, I was in the UK, so we couldn't visit.
Dude,
and I was very sad about that.
We were twirling around in the dark outside Macon going, we need a hotel room. We got a hotel room. We're like, where's Joey? And literally, I get on my phone on Facebook, and there you are playing with the lady from Doctor Who. And I'm going, this is some crazy stuff, right? So this is cool. I love that. I love that. I love that this show, we always look at what are the holidays. And I did not create these holidays, Joey. I sent you a link to this list of holidays. And did you, when you just kind of scanned over them, did you kind of go, who the hell makes these up? Like,
I mean, yeah, you have to
seriously.
wonder. You have to wonder a little bit. But I mean, you know, as you said in the intro, every day should be celebrated. You know, and as a blind brain tumor survivor, that's something my mom and dad always sort of reinforced, was like, every day should be a day. You should find something to celebrate. So I think it's fun. I think, I mean, it is a little bit mystifying at times. You're like, wow, I can't believe there's a day for this. But at the same time, it's pretty cool.
It is a good day. I'm going to say today is Army Reserve's birthday. We cannot complain about that. We got to thank them for their service.
Of course.
It is National Email Day.
Yeah,
That's
I get
amazing.
lots of those. Yeah.
How do you do email? Like, do you talk into the computer or what happens with that?
When I was about, okay, first of all, there was no one in my town, well, actually for 300 miles, that taught Braille. So I didn't learn Braille till I was about 12 or 13 years old. But when I was about 7, I did learn to touch type. That never was really particularly handy because even though I knew where all the keys were and I could type, I couldn't, read it back, right? I mean, so, if I made a mistake, I didn't know, that kind of thing. So that wasn't very helpful. But later, when I finally came into the, 21st century around 2002, I got back into computers. I'd been into computers around 1989, 80, 90. But computers weren't like an integral part of our life back then. So anyway, I kind of forswore them because the speech software that reads the screen to the blind, was called a screen reader, was so primitive that it would crash all the time. And, again, computers weren't integral. But then when I got into having to read emails and all that kind of stuff and needing to be on the computer for my business, Yeah, I basically type everything, and just the screen reader echoes what's on the screen, tells me what's on the screen. Now, when I'm on the road and using my cell phone, I have a hard time typing with my thumbs. If it's like a QWERTY keyboard, I got no problem. But typing with my thumbs, I tend to dictate when I do that. So
I need to learn to do that because I tell everybody I'm sorry I've got fat fingers and I should look and take that pause before I click send and apparently
yeah.
I don't know, my fingers think I'm perfect and it's just
Well,
too late
you are
and I got
perfect as
fat
far as I'm
fingers.
concerned. Yeah, you're
Well,
perfect as far
thank
as I'm
you.
concerned. But let me just say this. You know, the fact is, if people can understand the gist of what you have to say, who cares if there's mistakes in it?
Yeah,
I was like,
and I
that's good
like the
enough.
mistakes. I think they're
Yeah,
fun. And hey,
especially if they're in
listen,
auto-credited rude words.
I here and it is also International Pixel Stained Techno Peasant Day. Come on,
Whoa,
people.
I don't know what that
I
means.
I don't know, and I don't
You
know
don't
if I
care, do
want to
you?
know. It's also
You know,
Impossible Astronaut Day, and that comes from Doctor Who.
Doctor
Just say,
Who. Yeah,
see, there you go. It is. Oh my gosh, International Creator Day.
yeah,
And you have a song for that. That's
I
going to
do.
be played in everybody again. The playlist is in the show notes. So wherever you're listening to the show, Acast, iHeartRadio, Google, wherever.
Amazon.
Amazon, yep, everything. It's on we're on everything. Just
Yeah,
look in the show notes and the link is there. Or just go to bigblendradio.com. You'll find the show. The link is there. But you came up with the song that we've played before too that you wanted us to do again. So one song at a time. Tell us about that. So we all, I think this is something that obviously means a lot to you to play.
yeah.
And I like the song personally. It's one of my favorites of yours.
Well, the reason that I thought about it for Creators Day is this song is about my mission of leaving the world a better place than I found it, one person and one song at a time. And I do that by creating music. So it just seemed to fit. You know, it's about the act of creation to make things better. That's what the song's about. And
Mm.
so I think that creative, endeavors are so important. I think that artists act as historians, philosophers, seers in the sense of looking towards the future. So yeah, that's kind of the short answer to the song, why it's important.
I love it. And everyone, again, you can go to joeystuckey.com and connect with him on all the platforms he's in and actually buy music, by the way. Um, can I say that? And also
Yeah,
follow him
absolutely.
when he performs as well. But also, again, the song is in the playlist here too. I'm just keep going through these things. Today is
Incredible.
International English Language Day. So speaking of that holiday,
Bonjour.
there's a link in the show notes again for our conversation with Glenn Burrows. He is an amazing tour guide in England. He's on our show every third Saturday, teaching us about family history, England, everything. He is incredible. If you go to England, you
He
must
really
call
is
Glenn.
cool.
He
Yeah,
is
he's very
cool.
cool.
You've been on the show with him,
I have.
and he's sweet as can be. But he did a show with Nancy and I, and Lee Brovadani, and she's from Canada, and lives in the States and goes back and forth, and has lived in India and lived around the world. And she's on our show every third Thursday talking about trust. She is known as the trust architect, and she basically
Interesting.
says like trust is it's the cornerstone of everything, relationships,
Yeah. Yeah.
business, teamwork, you name it. So that's what we talk about. And
How does she feel
pretty,
about the Ronald Reagan quote, trust but verify?
ooh, I think she would go verify then trust. Yeah, I'll ask
Okay.
her. I'll ask
Yeah.
her. I will ask her. Hey, Joey, email that
Yeah.
to me.
I will. I
I'll
will.
ask her.
I'll do
I'll
it when
ask
we're
her.
done here. I'll do
Yeah,
it.
no, I'll ask her on the next show. I will because she's fantastic. But
And tell her
anyway,
Joey
we did.
Stuckey wants to know.
Yeah, she'll. I don't want to answer for her.
No.
That was rude.
Understood.
But if we did a show on the English language, and it got like at the end of it, Glenn said he couldn't let his mother hear it because like we Nancy and I have the background of being American, but then
Mm.
living in different countries, Kenya, England, South Africa, and South African gets really weird with the English language, and then she's got the Canadian background. Between us all, the English language got totally crazy. And yes, some slang words got in there.
Nice.
And like there's certain things you don't say over there that you say here and vice versa. Like maybe I shouldn't. It's a Sunday. I'll have the link in the show notes and you can go listen. We talked about things like spotted dick, which is an amazing dessert
It's a meal.
in
Yeah.
England. Yes,
Yeah.
and apparently everyone that goes there, Glenn says, takes home a bunch of spotted dick because
Yeah.
people don't have it in this country.
Yeah. But we
Or
don't.
if they do, it's not the English version.
Or if
So
they do, it's
anyway,
something they treat with ointment.
that's right. That's what doctors are for. So it is also moving on, movie theater day.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I think this is fantastic. Now, you talk about TV shows and movies. So are you doing it audio wise, right? That's how you take in the stories.
Well, yeah. So obviously, I can't see the screen, but that's why I like shows that are very dialogue driven, that are not, very, very visual, right? So car chases, love scenes, kind of boring for me. So I like things that are very dialogue driven. And nowadays they have more audio description than they used to. I mean, there's a lot of it out there now for the blind. And
Mm,
I think that's very exciting, and I love it. But sometimes, especially with Broadway theater, the audio descriptions get in the way of the actors' lines and stuff sometimes. So it's a very difficult thing to keep in sync with the film, TV show, play, whatever. It's very difficult to keep in sync, tell you what's going on, and not get in the way of the actors delivering their lines. So it's very tricky. And sometimes I love the audio descriptions and sometimes I don't. So,
mm,
but I'm so used to not having that as a resource because I grew up without that, that I tend not to use it, even though I'm in favor of it. I tend not to use it. I tend to just watch it with someone. And if I don't know what happened, I just lean over and whisper, "Hey, what just happened?"
yeah, what happened?
Yeah. So I mean, but I come from watching TV by myself a lot as a kid and a teenager, and just kind of have to deal with the fact that there's things I'm not going to get. You know what
But
I
you
mean?
get to use your imagination, and I think that's the beauty of
Yeah.
things like books, like, because
Books are my favorite because there's no budgetary constraint with a book. You
oh,
know,
that's a good point. That's a good
you know.
point.
I
Never
mean,
say
I
about
mean,
that editor. Yeah.
but like if you think about like okay, there's certain things that can't be done or can't be done well because of the visual budget or the audio or the soundtrack budget or whatever. With a book, you don't have that. It's all in your mind.
Mm,
So if the
yeah.
author is good,
Yeah.
so books are by far my preferred method. But again, I'm a huge UK fan. I would love to live there part time, and that's why I love BBC productions so much because they never have been about fancy schmancy graphics and stuff like that. They've always been very dialogue driven. Not that there aren't action scenes and stuff like that, but 90% of the time that I
Characters.
watch the BBC, yeah, it's character driven. Very, very exactly so. And
I'm
here in the
glad.
U.S.,
Yeah. I was glad you said that because it is movie theater day. And the first movie theater opened in New York City on this day called Coster and Beale's, opens, it was called Coster and Beale's Music Hall in New York City. The
neat.
first audience sat together to watch a movie on this day in 1896.
Wow.
Before this, people were doing it individually through kinetoscopes, those little thingies. And so now this was like the first big screen everyone gets together as an event. And then think about it, 1896 was a little while ago. And so what we have is, Steve Schneikert, our Hollywood historian. You know Steve,
Sure.
Joey. He's been on shows with you.
Yeah.
One of his Hollywood history podcasts here on Big Blend Radio is about the Hollywood history of cinema around the world. And that was what he was talking about. And the link to that podcast, again, is here in the show notes. And he talks about the magic that world cinema offers, and especially when you go overseas, that artistic value versus Hollywood commercialism, as he said, right there, boom, in my face when I'm reading this. And he talks about character driven, like in England. And so I want everyone to hear that. And Joey, I have a song for this, which
Oh,
I think is interesting because it gets down to who are we, right? This song is from one of my favorite bands, the Kinks. It's called
I love them.
Celluloid Heroes. Here it
Yes.
is. Well, I can't play it for you all. It's in the sound. It's in the show notes. I'm so used to always playing music for people, but go check it out in the show notes or look up your favorite Kinks album. It's probably on there. So the Celluloid Heroes from the Kinks, I think, didn't Joan Jett also cover this? I think she did on some
I
album, a
do not know.
compilation.
I
But
love
like
Joan Jett, but I'm
she
not a.
should.
Yeah, I don't
She
know.
should anyway. Yeah, the
I
Kinks are one of what's one of your favorite? Like Celluloid Heroes, I think was one of the first songs I heard from them.
Well,
Eh,
I have to say, like, you really got me all day, all night.
Sure.
Dedicated follower of fashion. Stop Your Crying Now. I mean, there's so many great. A Sunday
Ducks,
Afternoon. Yeah,
Ducks on the
and
Wall.
what about speaking of film and television? The theme song to one of my favorite British comedies, Jam in Jerusalem, is also by the Kinks. And it's this. Now I'm forgetting the title, but it's the song about it mentions Jam in Jerusalem and God bless the Preservation Society. I think it's called Preservation Society. So
Oh
yeah, so
yes,
yeah,
yes,
so
yes.
there's another film television tie-in for you.
Oh wow, this is cool. Now, I love this because I think we're going to have a big theme of movies and TV today. So we start with movies. National Brian Day. I love this.
Yes.
So I send this
Okay.
to you, but you go
Yeah.
Brian. Apparently it's Brian with a Y, but we there's Brian's with an I, and you bring up one of our favorites, The Life of Brian.
Yes.
And I can
Classic.
hear Nancy yelling from the background, "Stop picking your nose!" The Monty Python.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, I
That's,
mean,
I mean, well, so that's just the first Brian that comes to my mind. I guess we could talk about Brian May from Queen.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there's another good Brian for you. You got of course you got Brian Adams. So there's another good Brian. That all good music there for you. But yeah, Life of Brian. I mean, and what I thought about it was obviously it's a parable of the messianic tale, and so I thought that'd be appropriate for National Brian Day. I mean, you
I
can't get
love that.
much more exciting than that. But I do love. I mean, Life of Brian is one of the classic films, and there is a theme song for Life of Brian, but I prefer the song they perform at the end when everybody's hanging on a cross, which is Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, which is written by Eric Idle. So that I thought that was there's a couple good Brian songs
Well,
there, but
I love that, and always look on the bright side of life. That was something when we lived in England was a big song, and I didn't quite realize it until you sent it over. And everyone, again, this is in the playlist, and I went and looked it over and well, listened to it. Did you know it's the unofficial football anthem for England and the United
I
Kingdom?
did know that. Yep, I did know that. And the only reason I know that is because I've read Eric Idle's autobiography. So
Oh,
and he just calls the song Bright Side. So that's his short jargon for it. But yeah,
I
that's
like
how
it.
I knew that. Yeah, and that movie was hilarious. I mean, one of my favorite lines is "as much gold as I can eat." I mean, it's just the silliest thing that you've ever seen. And I think if you haven't seen it, and I can't imagine how that's possible, but if you haven't, celebrate National Brian Day by watching on your favorite streaming service and/or your old-fashioned Blu-ray or DVD player, The Life of
Mm.
Brian. To me, it's the best Python movie, but that's just me.
I dig it. The other thing, it's National Lost Dogs Awareness Day. This is important.
Yeah,
Nancy and I pet sit as we travel across the country full time, and it's
yeah,
not for money. It is just the way we travel. We're digital nomads, and quite frankly, most of the time you get the best internet. We won't talk about the last few days
we will
recently,
not.
but no, I mean really, it is actually the coolest way. And we're animal lovers. It's like, when we go to a hotel or somewhere else and there's no animals. Nancy and I are like always feeling our legs for the cat that's rubbing, the dog that wants to play or what. So it's
Yeah,
very weird. And because we're also used to sleeping with animals, but we won't talk about that on the show. It's Sunday.
let's
Um,
not.
oh, but come on, you should have heard what happened the other day. But
Oh,
anyhow, but no, lost animals. This is a big deal. As pet sitters, if I walk the dog, then people are like, you got to walk the dog here, there, and the other where and it's like, okay, then you get a mean dog coming around the street. No, dogs are real mean, but you know what I mean? It's like there's drama. Like walking the dog, I love
oh yeah,
walking dogs. I absolutely love it. My body needs it, but stuff happens. So you talk about your awareness level being on like the top, right?
yeah,
Because cars, people, and I watch people walking their dogs with their phone in their face. It's the stupidest thing.
Oh, I know.
And then the dog takes off because another dog chases and you didn't hold the leash, or maybe you don't walk your dogs on leash. Just don't start me. Or the
Hmm.
dog sneaks out of the backyard because you think it's all fine, but it's really not. Um, there are chips, there are all these programs, have your dogs, a collar around with your phone number. I can't tell you, I mean, we had a dog come into a yard in Georgia, and this dog comes as sweet as could be. The cats our indoor outdoor cats freaked out, but of course they're going to. And the
Yeah.
dog was sweet, 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 but we're like, we don't know who you are. I called the lady. The lady didn't answer because she doesn't recognize my number and it's a different area code than local,
Right.
right?
Right.
So then luckily they at the house had a landline. I call, and all she did, she was across the street. All she had to do was whistle and the dog went running home. And it's a nice kind of suburbia Beaver Cleaver neighborhood kind of thing, so everything was safe. But
Right.
there are dogs that go missing all the time, and we've seen them. We've tried to rescue dogs on the road, and what do you do when you're traveling full time and you don't know where you are and there's a dog
Yeah.
just running on the side of the road? So please, people, when you get your pets, have them take them to the vet, get them ID'd, go to the Humane Society, whoever does it in your town, and make sure you have it because you never know what happens. And in all these natural disasters, um, it's good to crate train your animals because we don't want them to always be in a crate, but becomes their like own bedroom. That's their toys, their blankie, and everything. If you go through a hurricane or a wildfire, all the floods that are happening, I mean, come on, tornadoes. We can tell this country's going through some literal hell in regards
Hmm.
to disasters. If your
Yeah.
dogs are not tagged and trained that way, and something happens to you during this, they're at a loss. And so, anyway, that's something just to do. So I'm not trying to be on my little soapbox, but I think I did my
No,
soapbox.
I
I'm
think
done
I
now.
think you're absolutely right. And I had, but just to show how old I am, I had before they had chips. We always had a collar on our dog, but she was actually stolen. And
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
yeah, she
like
was.
Lady Gaga's dogs got stolen, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, our dog was stolen. She was a beautiful Australian Shepherd. She got
Oh.
stolen. We lost her for 2 weeks. We thought, okay, she's gone. She's dead. We didn't know. But she was a loyal companion and never would have run off on her own. Anyway, we every morning, every night before when we got up, when we went to bed, we'd go outside and call for her. And 2 weeks later, I just wouldn't give up, even though I thought it was useless. And I called her, and there she came with a rope around her neck, and you can see where she had chewed through it to get loose. But we had a collar on her, so my only explanation is that obviously somebody stole the dog and tried to keep her.
And dogs, it's interesting. Like when we moved to Kenya, Nancy had a German Shepherd, Simba, and young pup, but still like don't mess with me. But a guy stole her, and they came telling Nancy, and here she goes. I mean, through the wilds of Kenya. Like, I'm not kidding. This is when we
Yeah,
were in Nairobi. Lived in a neighborhood called Karen, which was named after Karen Blixen, and maybe people know her from writing the book Out of Africa, which became the movie with Robert
right.
Redford. But that was her neighborhood, which named after her because we actually lived on what was the tea plantation at the time.
Huh.
And so we actually lived in her servants' quarters. But anyway, but that became a house, just anyway, it's a long story. So Simba gets stolen, and animals will do that if their parents aren't around and are young or not used to anything bad happening, and somebody knows how to steal them. Sometimes they drug them, and they stole our
Hmm.
dog. And Nancy goes out with a machete through the backyard. No kidding, through the field behind our houses. Finds a guy that was beating Simba, and Nancy's got a machete. And as soon as Simba saw Nancy, Simba went for his throat. And
Nice.
she was able to get Simba, and no one messed with us ever again. They called her a witch. She's always been, Maganga is a witch in the Swahili,
Yeah.
and they always would say she's a witch because she always she could talk to animals and it freaked people out. And you know, anyway, they all started walking on the other side of the street.
I'm
People
okay with
did.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
I
mean,
think I mean, it's like, but I don't think you can run around with a machete here and people understand. But
yeah,
don't
yeah,
mess
probably
with
not.
Nancy. No, don't mess with Nancy. But on the other side of the coin, it is National Lovers Day.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think that is a good thing. I think
Oh yeah.
it's sometimes human beings need a reminder of love, whether it's your lover, your husband, your wife. But I think it's about remembering and rekindling. You're married, Joey. I think we
Yeah.
can get busy, right? Is there an importance to things like date night and those
Oh
kinds of
gosh, yeah.
things?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so I've been married 20 years this June.
Wow,
And
you
yeah.
go.
And yeah, so we didn't meet till we were in our later 20s. But my my wife and I met through a mutual friend, and technically all my dates are blind, haha. But
Oh yeah,
this was a
here we go.
this was a real blind date. So I actually told this nice lady who was recording at my studio, and she was a nurse, and she said, I said to her, I got a thing for nurses. So if you set me up with a pretty nurse, I'll give you a studio discount. And I said it kind of tongue in cheek, but I also felt like her name's Lee. And I felt like Lee was such a sweet, wonderful person that she must know someone sweet and wonderful. And I was right. And so a week later, I had my wife's phone number. We talked on the phone for the first time for 10 hours straight. Um,
Wow.
and until her alarm went off and she had to go to work. And my wife's an advanced practice nurse and a midwife. So she had to go to work at 6:30 in the morning, and we talked 10 hours. And then we we dated for a while. Now, when we met, I was in a wheelchair.
Mm.
So I was in a wheelchair from a hip issue. My bones were kind of crumbly, and the people with my type of brain tumor can have joint issues later on in life, and I do. But I was in a wheelchair, and we met, and I knew we met in July, and I asked her to marry me in October, and then we got married the following June because I had to have surgery and this, that, and the other. So had you told me, you've known someone, had you told me that you had met someone and asked her 3 months later to marry you, I'd said that's crazy. But it's clearly worked out.
I love it. I love that. That's a beautiful story. I mean,
Yeah,
really,
I
I
mean
think
well,
you
we
know
do.
when
We
you
try to
connect.
well, you do, and we had we were older, so we were 28 years old, something like that, and somewhere in that range, and we'd had a lot of experiences of what we didn't want to do, right,
Hmm.
and you know did what we didn't want out of a relationship, what we did want, and we had a really good conversation about what we thought marriage was and what it meant, and so that we had the same expectation of what a marriage was. So we do try to have date night. We do try to make sure, and we now she's had to retire from being a midwife because of some health issues. But we travel and spend all of our time together. And I honestly, I'm just one of those people that I can spend all day with you and not get tired of you. I mean, I don't
Mm.
spend time around people that I get sick of. Now, some people need their quiet time, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just
Mm.
not one of those people. I'm content on my own or with somebody. I'm happy either way. So I'm saying all that to say that I mean I got married because I wanted to spend all my time with this person,
Mm.
and we do. We travel together and all this good stuff. So and we never really argue. We've had a few handful of discussions, but I wouldn't say we've had any like real bad arguments because we had such a clear understanding of who each other were from the beginning. But
That's
anyway, I wrote a. Go ahead.
I think that there's a really important thing about having those discussions where sometimes it goes into this gaga la la emotional thing, right? Which
Yeah,
is part of it, the love,
that's
right? And
fine.
we're gonna
Yeah, of
play
course.
"Ain't It Good to Be in Love." We're gonna play that from you, but
Yeah.
well, it's in our playlist. I'm so used to playing it, but anyway, it's like, hey, I'm used to like, let's go on stage and just perform it now.
Yeah.
But I think these conversations are so crucial because it's like almost like in a company you write a mission statement,
Yes.
and Nance and I have to once in a while people will come up and say, like, we actually have it printed on the back of our card, our company mission statement that we wrote when I was in my 20s. Like, you've got to think, like, we've been doing this together for 26 years in this country, not to mention what she started in South Africa. And so when we came together as a team, we wrote this mission statement and we scratched it out. It's like writing a song together, right?
Oh yeah,
But it's your mission statement. It's beyond a mission. It's like, this is who we're about. And people come out once in a blue and they're like, oh my gosh, I love your mission statement. And, I wish more people thought like this and whatever it is. And we forget. And like sometimes we have to go back and go, let's go back to the drawing board, because Nancy and I can get easily derailed on things because we find absolutely everything interesting. It's so
me too.
derailed is a bad word. It's the rabbit hole excitement. That's why we do this
Yes,
show. It's
yeah,
like there's so much to learn about this world, and I feel like we don't have enough time and I want to cram it all in. It's like eating a
yeah.
good cake, you
I
know?
agree.
So sometimes you have to like go back to it and make sure you're still living that mission, and you
Yeah,
can have all these new things come in your life, but as your core moral tree, your
yeah,
tree there. So I love what you're saying about the two of you having that conversation because I think it's that
yeah. And you know what's
a
so
mission statement.
what's yeah, what's so strange to me is that's just how my first of all that's just how my mind works. But it seems like really a really bad idea if you don't sit down and talk about what you want from the future. And of course, those things can change, but you need to have some core beliefs that are shared. I mean, if she likes to watch, ER, and I want to watch Star Trek, that's something we can get over. But if she wants children and I don't, or if she is highly spiritual and I'm not, I mean, those are problems. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know,
and children, even political parties at this point, right? So
yeah.
and it's something like, oh, are you willing to work through it? If it's not, if it's a deal breaker, it's a deal breaker, and it's not
And
a
you
mean
might as well
thing.
know that immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've, my greatest love of in my lifetime,
Oh, that's me, isn't it?
it was a deal breaker. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's since passed, but
Yeah.
it was a deal breaker over children, over just they're just certain musically we aligned, but we didn't align on other ways. It
Got it.
just
Got it.
yeah, and you couldn't, and yet we could love and care about each other, and we're dear friends until the end. And
Right.
I still talk to him. You know what I mean? It's like we
Yeah.
can be good buddies. But your song is "Ain't It Good to Be in Love," and this is through the Joey Stuckey Trio. Joey's got a lot of different names. We were talking about that the last time you were on the show, but this is a good song. So this was an album, right? That tell everybody about it.
Yeah. So this song, well, okay. So I did a version of this song with my good friend Charlie Hoskins, who's passed away, and I released
Mm.
that as a single. But then the trio was on tour, and we were in Memphis, Tennessee, and I thought, well, boy, it would be fun to record at Sun Studio in Memphis, Tennessee. And so I've never recorded in a studio in my life. I've always had my own. But I thought, wouldn't this be cool? Because they are using basically the same everything they had from the late 50s, early 60s. Um, and so everybody's crammed in one room with just a handful of microphones. And we just thought it would be fun. And so this song was a big part of our set. So my goal at the time was just to capture the trio as it was at that moment in time as sort of a postcard. But then I got back to the studio with it and I thought, gosh, this is pretty good, actually. We should make this into a record. So the name of the album is In the Shadow of the Sun. And it's got Al Chez, who is famous trumpet player on it. He's played on the Late Show with David Letterman for over 17 years.
Wow.
He's amazing. He played with Tower of Power.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
he's done a lot of neat stuff. So I met him at the Grammys one year and we started talking. We became friends. And I was like, you got to play on my record. And he did. So there's some mighty fine trumpet playing on this. And then just recently, I am remaking this song yet again. So this will be the third iteration as a duet with another blind vocalist. And we're doing it as a sort of a back and forth duet about Ain't It Good to Be in Love. And that also has my friend Julian Colbeck on keyboard, who played with the band Yes and some other bands like
Oh
that. And
wow.
so we're doing, so that's coming out at some point this year. God knows when.
Well, I know you'll let us know. So
Of
everybody,
course.
go to the playlist, and again, go to joeystuckey.com. The playlist again is linked in our show notes. And I want to say the next holiday, and I love the song. I love all your music. Nancy and I both are like big fans of your music because
I
I
appreciate
think
that.
you don't. there's just such a reality to it, and grittiness, yet you just dynamics and a little bit of rock and blues, and that's my favorite thing is rock and blues being together. They're
And you are a mighty
that's
fine blues singer as well.
well, thank
I've heard
you.
some good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about that. Let's talk about being in a studio and being scared out of your wits. That would be that recording you heard. I was scared, scared, scared.
Well,
But
that's why God makes
one,
cattle prods.
yeah, I know,
You
right?
just you get a little zap and you just get going.
Oh boy, here we go. Here we go.
All
Well,
right.
I'm
Anyway.
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna tie into National Lovers Day with today being National Picnic Day. Now, this is
Ah,
Nancy and I's favorite thing to do across the country, and that's part of why we do our Love Your Parks tour to document parks and public lands. Is yes, to save the land, and also to preserve history. Because you can't, nature and history go hand in hand. I don't care. You could take me anywhere, and I'll show you that both exist. I don't care if it's a building. I will show you something that connects it. And
nice.
it is. I mean, it's a reality. But picnics is actually how Nancy and I live. And even when we pet sit, we're looking at each other. Okay, now we got to do something in the kitchen. What the hell? We forgot how to do all that. And people go, oh, and if you want to bake, and Nancy and I look at each other like, listen, we live on sandwiches and wine and coffee. That's it. That's it. And pizza and pizza. I love my avocados too, but um, the picnic day is a big deal. We have and in the show notes again, Ruth Milstein, she's on our show every third Sunday giving tips on cooking, especially for families. She did a whole article about tips on cooking or preparing for a picnic. And a picnic is not always just going to national parks. You've got community parks. It's a day to get outside. And I think for couples, it's an amazing way to put your phone down, be outside, get some fresh air, enjoy the food, whatever you put in your picnic basket. Go to either someone local who can make something special or do it yourself something special. What we love personally is to go into a park and have gotten like a sandwich locally, and maybe it's local wine or no wine, whatever it is, something local to enjoy, maybe local fruit, that kind of thing. So you can kind of enjoy the bounty, savor it and understand it, and give homage to those who grow it and raise it and make it and prepare it and all that, and get to understand a taste of the region, but also be in the natural elements. We do it in the mornings really early. We're always at sunrise when we travel across. Well, we're weird. Like, seriously, we will be somewhere. We are up between 3, 4 in the morning to be somewhere at sunrise when everybody wakes up and you hear the dawn's chorus, and then you
Yes.
can see the deer come out and you hear them. And Joey, I know I do a lot of photography and filming, and Nancy does all the video making, and stuff, but you're not always going to see what's there. And so there's a lot that by smell and sound. You can hear certain bird species, but you may not even see them, but you experience them, and you can hear them call back and forth. And so taking a picnic date is a huge, huge deal to us because it is about going outside. And when you take time, a lot of people go to a park and they walk through, jog through, which is good for physical stuff, right? Health and wellness. But if you just have a picnic and chill out and relax, not be too noisy, the animals will start to surround you. The birds will come. It's why people laugh at us about champagne hikes. We'll have our champagne in a park and hummingbirds come around. And you will know the hummingbirds there by hearing more than you will by seeing immediately because of their wings, and they've got their sounds and they are attracted to it. So I'm just going to say, I'm not trying to tell people to go drink at a park, but I'm just saying they do come
Aren't
out.
you really though? I mean, you kind of are.
I am,
Yeah.
but you don't need to. I don't want to, I'm not trying to push anybody into drinking.
No, I think
But
you're right.
I'm
I'm
just
kidding. I'm
saying,
kidding. I'm kidding.
I
Right.
think even if you have nice tea, it's going to happen because there's sugar in it. Um,
Oh,
that
that's a good
they
point.
come, but they
I
come, and once you're there long enough, and they see you relax, then become part of the landscape that they're in, and they see you not acting around crazy or being loud and playing loud, loud music in a park that's serene with nature. The animals will start to go, and you're developing trust. We're back on the trust
yeah,
conversation.
I love that. I love to get up in the morning and hear those birds and wake up with the birds. There's something really magical about the birth of a new day. It just really is a special time. And I have to say, some of the best dates I've ever been on have been picnics. I mean, they're a beautiful way to spend some time. And we do exactly what you say. Sometimes we make our own food, but oftentimes we'll go to a special mom and pop sandwich shop or something like that and get something special that's unique to the area. And I think that's a lot of fun.
And listen, like if you're in the South, some po' boys will go a long way. It's also National English Muffin Day. We love our English
Oh
muffins
my
or
gosh.
crumpets,
Yes,
really.
absolutely. Yeah.
And then it's National Cherry Cheesecake Day, which we love. But in the
Who doesn't love
theme of
that?
picnics, it's picnic day, but it's also, we're talking about movies today too. So,
Yeah.
um, one of my most favorite songs in the whole world is the theme song from the movie Picnic. And actually, there's the original theme song and movie Picnic, and you can Somewhere My Love and Moonglow can be reversed. It's this weird thing that if you play them in reverse, they're actually the same song. I'm
Huh.
gonna get it wrong, but anyway, something weird about that. Someone's gonna email me and say you were wrong. It's this, but you'll get what I mean. There's something interesting in that. But the song Moonglow, we used
I've
to
played
play it
that
as a
song many a
band.
times. Yeah, I played it
Have you
many times
really?
myself. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you like this song. Well, do you like it?
It's
I
fantastic.
think it's a
Oh yeah, I
beautiful
love it.
song.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The dynamics is incredibly crucial to this song. It's simple, but not. And it's just the vocals and the instrumentation has to let it breathe.
Yes.
I'm
That's
just,
the
the
perfect
song is,
description. You gotta let it breathe. That's
yeah.
the perfect description. Yeah.
See, we're back to wine again. See? But yeah, I know. And Joey doesn't drink, but we do. We enjoy our
Well,
wine. And
blind
I
and
don't
drunk are
say
really bad
drink like
ideas.
alcoholics,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Moonglow, what did not know is that Carly Simon covered this. I
I
did
did not know
not
that
know
either.
this. So she is on the playlist for Moonglow, and she does an amazing job because I'm really picky about it. It's like someone has to sing it really well because it's just such a beautiful song. So I just played Moonglow for Joey here by Carly Simon. And again, everybody, it's click on the playlist in the show links, the show page. You can see that. But Joey, what do you think of that? Because I think she took it right back to its originality with that.
Yeah, I love it. And it's vocally some of the best things she's done. Very subtle, a lot of subtleties in her voice there, a lot of vibrato. That was well controlled. So I'm being a music snob here, but that's my job that I do for a living is to dissect this stuff. I'll tell you what was really fascinating and interesting choices on her behalf was there were a lot of vibes going
Yeah,
on. So,
that's the
and
original. Does that the
yeah,
original? The
yeah,
vibraphone was a huge part, and the
it
clarinet,
was a
oboes.
huge part.
Hmm.
And there was and also the clarinet was in there that I thought was very cool. That sounded great.
God, I
And
love the clarinet.
oh, me
I
too.
love it.
And then the last thing was she had a slight. It's very subtle, but she had a slight slap back delay on the vocal, which is kind of an Elvis trick.
Hmm.
It was very subtle, but I thought it was an interesting choice. But yeah, I was excited to hear how much it sounded like a real jazz piece. And
Yeah, because when you heard the vibraphone in the beginning and went away, and I was like, okay, is she gonna go back to it? And she did. And then
right,
going to the clarinet, like to me, as soon as I heard that, I was like, holy cow, she's doing it.
yeah,
But you
very
know what I
authentic.
thought was great when she sings about how, we float through the air and all of that. Her voice went with the lyrics, which
Yeah,
I think
absolutely,
we've lost that, where the voice kind of mimicked the feel and the sound of what the lyrics were telling you in the story. Our vocals
absolutely, absolutely.
tone used to do that.
With my students, that's what I talk about. Is like connect with what you're singing. Don't just sing the words and don't just sing them well. There's a technical prowess that's fine, but make me feel what you're singing about. So if you're singing something that's sweet and romantic, maybe make that more intimate. Don't sing so full force. There's so many different ways you could communicate. So I thought she did
Hmm.
a beautiful job.
See, there you go. I dig it. I see now. Okay, so our big themes are movies and love today, and
Yeah,
food. It's always food
yeah, and
and wine.
always food.
I know, I dig it. But so the other big deal is that it is National and International Book Day. It's UN English Language Day, which we already talked a bit about. But I think a lot of this is because it's said to be Shakespeare's Day, Shakespeare
Yeah,
Day. He
yeah.
was born on this day, right? So this is a big deal, but we're not 100% sure. Let me just say, it's his traditional approximate birth date in the Julian calendar, based on his April 26th baptism, which was in 1564.
Hmm.
So they changed the calendars around and did stuff. So this is the best knowledge we all have. The writer and
Yeah,
actor William Shakespeare,
yeah.
and our quote of the
Playwright.
day, which I've got two, and I still can't figure which one we're going to use. One is, expectation is the root of all heartache. I truly believe that.
There's some truth in that. There's some truth in that. Yeah.
And then the other one is, no legacy is so rich as honesty.
Nice.
You can't mess with that. And
You can't
you
argue with
know
that.
that I know on this day too, the Merry Wives of Windsor was first performed with Queen Elizabeth I in attendance on this day. Shakespeare's play was
Yeah.
first performed, and that was in 1597. So he's got a little things going on. But it not only is it World Book Day, but it's also Copyright Day. So just saying, that's a big
Don't get me
deal.
started on that. Yeah, I
I
that's
don't
one of the
start me
things.
either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am quite the copyright law connoisseur, and I teach that stuff. Even though I'm not an attorney, but I do teach music business, and I harp on that like you would not believe.
Okay, so is it true that you can mail your lyrics to yourself, and because you've done that they're yours? Because I don't understand that
It
being
is not true. That is a complete
that's
fabrication.
I mean, how could you prove that it was? I mean,
So
it's made no sense to me ever.
here's the theory. Well, first of all, let me say this for anyone out there who thinks they shouldn't copyright your work. Let me just say that you should. And if you want to be in the business of being a creative person and you're going to do that as your career, you've got to protect yourself. Now, the truth is, most artists don't want to steal from you, but there are some that will, and it only takes one jerk to make things bad. And so, you just have to protect yourself and be reasonable. So, the initial sort of false premises that the mailing things to yourself was supposed to help with, essentially what was happening was you're supposed to mail it to yourself certified mail. And so what happens is you are getting a federally substantiated date as to when the work was created, theoretically. So you mail it to yourself certified mail, you sign for it, and you never open the package. But that is not a copyright. At best, and I say at best, it is an exhibit in a court of law, but it's a pretty flimsy one. And in our Western system here in the United States,
Hmm.
you have to file a copyright with the Library of Congress, or you cannot even adjudicate your case. So the only way that you get the 6 exclusive rights that are given to you by the only way you get, well, in theory, as soon as you create something, it's protected. But in practice, the only way you can adjudicate your case and seek punitive damages is to file with the Library of Congress. So I won't go into the rabbit hole of all the different rights and that stuff. But yeah, that thing's a myth. And I have been working for the past 20 years to crush that myth.
Yeah, really, because it doesn't make sense. I was good, and I've read it in songwriting books. Going, I don't
Yeah.
care what year
Yeah.
this was
It's not
written
true.
in. This is,
Well,
I mean,
and
that.
there are now, Lisa, there are now companies that say for $3 you can copyright your song and we'll do it for you. And they're basically doing a digital version of what they call the poor man's copyright, which is when you mail it to yourself via certified mail. But any good music attorney will tell you that that's absolute nonsense. And if anyone's really interested, if you Google or actually go to YouTube and Google Joey Stuckey Behind the Shadow with Alan Clark.
Mm.
Joey Stuckey Behind the Shadow with Alan Clark. And you can watch about a 12-minute interview I do with my entertainment attorney about this very topic.
Oh, wow. I love that, because I think it's, especially people getting started, they get hoodwinked into all the crap that is out there
Oh, yeah.
on the
Yeah.
internet. But you did mention YouTube, right? And that's where our
Yeah.
playlist of music is. Did
Yeah.
you know today is the day that YouTube became part of Google?
I
YouTube
did not know
launched
that.
2005.
Wow.
It launched on this day, April 23rd, 2005. And it worked so well that Google says, well, we can't beat it. They tried to do Google Video at that time. It didn't work. So in 2006, they bought it, and it became the most popular place to hear music for free. And you
Mm,
can still listen to music for free on YouTube.
sure.
You're going to have ads, but I mean, honestly, I'm sorry, but everyone gets mad about the ads.
Uh,
You're not paying, and you have
yeah,
an option now
that's
to
what you
not
call
have it.
freemium. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
freemium plan. Yeah.
yeah,
If
but
you're
I
not,
mean,
if you're not, it's just like with the radio. You got ads on radio because you're not paying for the radio. So
oh yeah, and remember when you had to upgrade to buy things, and then they said you won't get ads, and then suddenly you got ads, and then you had to upgrade
uh-huh.
again. Isn't that
Yep.
still happening in all these platforms?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
whatever. But the world doesn't work without advertising, and that's how we survive. So
Yeah.
anybody, uh, you know, Google me. Go to blendradioandtv.com, and I'll
Yeah.
help happily take your advertising and help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, but it's true. If you don't, you can create all you want in the world, but if people don't know about it, you ain't got anything that's going to
That's right.
move or shake or change anything. And
That's
as a
right.
good businessman told Nancy and I once, he said, girls, nothing happens in the world unless a sale is made. And
That's right.
that is the truth.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you can get against advertising all you want, but it is about information, and you can choose to buy something or not. Period.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's
You
about
still have
knowing
control.
something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's that. So I'm a big fan of advertising.
Me
So
too.
I am. I really am.
I
So
mean,
go
in
ahead.
fairness, like the ads are so targeted now that half the time they sell me something I want anyway.
Well, yeah, I know, right? I know.
Yeah.
Because it is the book day, right? National
Yeah.
Book Day, Copyright Day, all of that. You
Yeah.
chose a song. Who wrote the Book of Love by the Monotones? And
Yes,
this song is iconic. I mean,
it
hasn't this
is.
been part of our musical landscape for years? I mean, I
Yeah, it's
love you
been done by
chose
a lot
this.
of people. Yeah, I did. It's been done by a lot of people. And when I saw it's National Book Day and Lovers Day, I thought, what a perfect song to encapsulate both those things.
I love it. So everyone, that is in the playlist. You're going to remember it as soon as you hear it. I loved it. I loved hearing, that, just I was like, oh, that's perfect. You know what I mean? To get going. And it goes with everything we're talking about today. And it is National Take a Chance Day. Now, I like this. I think that's kind of Nancy and I kind of go, well, that's kind of our life.
That's
Um,
your
and
MO.
and it's but you chose the song Cougar by Pammie Kakes. So I, you know,
You
you
want to
know
know
how
why,
our
don't
minds
you?
work.
You
Yeah,
want to
I
know
do.
why?
But I like
Yeah.
Pammie
Oh,
Cakes
she's fantastic.
Ensemble.
Pancakes
Tell
Ensemble.
me about because I enjoyed listening to this, and then I got stuck into others. So you took me on a rabbit hole, starting with Cougar.
I am so happy to hear that. Well, so Pam Bedwell the artist name, and she goes under Pancakes Ensemble and Pam Bedwell. I'm honestly not sure why, but the fact that she's a client of mine,
Oh, no
I
way.
yeah, she's a client of mine, and she is, I think, one of the finest songwriters around. For lack of a better word, we call her music Americana or maybe singer songwriter. But what I thought was so interesting, if you listen to the record, I play all the instruments on it. So I play. There's one. There's one song on the album that has a real fiddle that I did not play that, and there's one time where I brought in my friend Miguel Castro to play drums on something because I thought he played better drums than I did. But otherwise, I played all the instruments and she sang all the vocals. And so, but this song is called Cougar. And I just thought, and I'm going to tell a little story on myself here. I think everyone should date a cougar at least once. So that is why I thought it would be perfect for Take a Chance Day, because it's a lot of people say, oh, that's a terrible idea. I dated a cougar one time and it was fantastic. Now, it was not a marriage type situation, but we had a lot of fun together for a while. And
Fun is important, and
yeah,
you get to learn from each other,
yeah,
and there's the
I was
other
like,
word, MILF, But anyway, so
well, yeah.
did
I mean, I mean, in this case, that was an appropriate thing to apply.
Did I just
But
take a step too far on a
not to
Sunday
me,
afternoon?
but I'm a sick man. So, but once you had a brain tumor, man, everything gets pretty okay.
Yeah, well, because you're alive, and that's it. And that's the
Yeah,
thing. Take a chance day and listen, cougars have something to teach. And I
they
remember
do.
I took a photo of Nancy and our dear friend Rondi once. We were on a hike in Sabino Canyon before Rondi got us lost and took us on an overnight desert hike that we weren't supposed to be on, but there was a sign that's
Oh.
like cougar warning, cougar mountain lion. I took a photo of the two of them, and I don't have the photo anymore, and I'm still bummed about it because it was perfect. But I love this song, and I'm so glad everyone is part of the playlist. And once you get stuck into her vocals, her songs, it's like
She's
there's an
amazing.
old. I don't want to say this wrong, but there's like this old school sound that is
It is. It is.
symbolic of an era that I mean, just even being in Texas right now and hearing it goes well. And I
Well,
want to almost change now my song for Roy Orbison today because I wanted to play Pretty Woman because he does that big meow, you know?
oh yeah, yeah. Well,
But
there's
I,
also Janet. If you're looking for cat noises, Janet Jackson's black cat has a nice.
oh,
I
see,
think
there you go.
I don't know if it's a cougar or a panther because I am not an aficionado on those things, but she has
Well,
a nice wow at the beginning.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of panthers like they say pumas, like the puma from anyway, I'll go into the whole thing on that. And there's jaguars, and then there's the puma. Like in Florida is different than what you'd find in the desert, and
Huh.
then like in Georgia, you got the swamps behind you,
Oh yeah.
behind your area that I think are one of the best, most amazing places in the world. It's one
Yeah.
of my favorite places. So,
I'm just
um,
afraid of snakes and alligators, so I don't
well, I
do
would
much
be if I
swamping.
was blind too.
Yeah, I mean,
I would
by
be a
the
little
time you hear them,
nervous.
it's too late.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that, and some of them don't rattle, and
Yeah.
yeah, but I did see a cottonmouth and almost got myself nailed by a cottonmouth
Oh
out in
God.
the Okefenokee swamp, and then
Now, were
I
you wearing
filmed an
boots and stuff?
no,
You
hiking
don't wear like.
boots,
I mean, you don't wear
hiking
like
boots.
big. Okay.
No,
I mean,
no, but I said to Nancy, we went out and we did, there's this boardwalk in Okefenokee Swamp, the National Wildlife Refuge. We haven't done the swamp park yet, but that may change soon. But this is a place like as a kid I always wanted to go to. And here I was living in Africa and doing the dream of lions and everything, right?
sure.
No, I want to go to Okefenokee. And by the way, the swamp is under dangerous threat of being mined and oiled and just taken out and being destroyed right
Yeah.
now. So everybody, you got to check that out politically. But um, that's why we do what we do. So we go and we walk this boardwalk, and it takes you to a watchtower, and you get up there. Anyway, so on our way, there's the alligators are hanging out even at the beginning, and you can stand on the boardwalk, and they're right there at your feet. It's like, hello, how are you? And especially in wintertime, it's good to go out to the swamps because the water's lower, and you can see the alligators a little bit better.
Mm.
Anyway, so we see this one sunning himself, and we're like, hey, how are you? We go up the watchtower, and this one big alligator had taken down a turtle
Mm.
and was crunching on it. I filmed it, and you
Oh,
can hear the crunching. He's like, gong, gong. It's like this
wow.
cracking sound, like, ooh.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so we're walking back, and I'm like, dude, we've been here like a few times now, and I still haven't seen a snake. Well, lo and behold, here comes the snake and looks at me, and I'm like, Nancy, it's right here. And she's like, looking. And I'm like, you need to walk back. And I'm like, there's this reed that was in my way to take the photo, and I'm trying to get it zoomed in and everything. And where I needed to be, the snake moved its head towards like, dude, I was gonna go down. And
Ooh,
I looked it up later, and it was a cottonmouth that I hung out with.
jeez. And those
And
are very dangerous.
yeah, and he was gonna get me because I
Yeah.
got too close, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't get in
No.
their space.
No.
And we've seen a lot of water snakes, and they're super cool. I mean, they're amazing. When we were in North Carolina, we saw two kinds of water snakes all wrapped up together, like out
Weird.
sunning themselves in hickory nut falls. Hickory nut canyon, or hickory canyon. There's hickory nuts involved in North Carolina. It's really beautiful by Chimney Rock. And then we saw them in Arkansas. I don't care what water you see in Arkansas, there's a snake in it. Period. It's
Well,
a natural snake. It's a snake. I love Arkansas.
I
Love it.
mean, I don't want to be anti-snake, but just not a fan.
Yeah, well,
I
if you can't see them,
yeah.
you've got to, and Nancy and I have had so many experiences with snakes that you know, like we should be, both of us should be dead at this
Well, I
point,
mean,
especially Nancy,
the when I was
what
a
she's been through.
child, yeah, when I was a child, we lived on a lake, and
Oh, cool.
there were several times when I'd be out in the yard walking around, three or 4 years old, and my mom would yell, "Hey, don't move! There's a snake!" And so that
That's
just
not cool
unnerved
if you
me.
can't see what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah. So
That's not
that sort of
cool.
jaded me forever.
Yeah, well, I mean, growing up in Africa, and Nancy, she worked with Joy Adamson, and for those who don't know, it's Elsa the Lion, Born Free, that movie that came out. She worked for Joy Adamson, and they were
Neat.
rehabilitating leopards and lions and doing all this stuff in the bush. And so Nancy goes out and works for her, and lived in the bush on a camp. And she always tells these stories of like when you go in a shower, and the shower was a bucket of water going through holes, like literally that's your shower. If
Mm.
you wanted the hot water, you got the cobras underneath the slats that you're standing on, like, and you need to like think of like a pallet, like a wood pallet kind of thing,
Gotcha,
stand on there,
gotcha.
and there's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
snakes under there. If you want a cold shower, you didn't get the snakes because the snakes are now gone from the first person. So
Huh.
Nancy learned about snakes, and that was her morning every day when she was out there in the bush doing that.
Oh my
And
God.
we've had many others. We've been chased. We've had pythons mating under our car. We've
Whoa.
had black mambas in our laundry room. I mean,
Ooh.
I remember when I was a kid in Kenya, sitting on the toilet and supposed to take a shower or go to take a bath. And it's like, go take your bath, take your bath. I'm like, no, mommy, there's millions and millions of snakes. She's like, oh, bull. She opens the door, and literally the floor is covered with baby snakes.
Yowza.
And a snake had given birth, because there's live birth snakes, right? The
Yeah.
viperius, I think, and had given birth, and all these baby snakes were on the floor
Yeah, I
between
feel
me and
creeped
her.
out just hearing about it.
I know, maybe I should be telling these stories to
Yeah.
people. But
Yeah.
anyway, snakes are snakes. Anyway, I want to get to Roy Orbison because it's his birthday. He was
Oh, I didn't know.
born on birth anniversary, born in Vernon, Texas, 1936. And
Did not know that.
he he is truly one of my most favorite singers on the planet.
Well,
The
let me tell you,
vibrato of
you
his
can't
voice,
get better. His pitch, his
right?
range. I mean, his expression. Roy is one of the great vocalists. And as we talked about this earlier, that I was recording at Sun Studio. That was where he made a lot of his seminal records as well, up at Sun
Exactly.
Studio in Memphis. So I love Roy Orbison.
Well, there's an artist, Alice Lease, that's been on our show over the years. She is a National Parks Arts Foundation artist in residence. She's done Hawaii, Dry Tortugas National Park, all these different parks. But her and her family run a cattle ranch in West Texas,
Mm,
outside a town called Wink. And her town has a museum dedicated to Roy Orbison. And she says literally you can't
cool.
wink. It's in Vernon, right down the street from her. And she says it's his birthplace, and it's his tiny museum, and I have to go. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
this means more than what people talk about Graceland. I know
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Graceland's become like a big thing, and I
Sure.
get it, but this is Roy Orbison. Like,
Yeah.
there was the movie The Commitments, and I encourage people to, if you want to hear about like Wilson Pickett and I mean, it was Irish band that learned, soul and R&B, like old school, like Marvin
Mm,
Gaye, Wilson Pickett, and it's an old movie that came out in maybe late 80s, early 90s, The Commitments. And I read the book too, and I love the author, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but um, I actually got to see them perform at a
oh, cool.
festival in San Diego years ago with Taj Mahal, and it was
Nice.
awesome. But this British guy, it was just like everything shite since Roy Orbison. And I'm gonna go like, dude, and I'll never forget that in the movie, and it's always that. And so Roy Orbison has to be performed. And Roy Orbison did so much. David Lynch put him in his movies, and so "In Dreams" is a song I want to play, and is in part of the playlist. But I think I'm going to add "Pretty Woman" in there because we
Oh,
got the
that's a
Cougar thing
classic.
going. We got to do "Pretty Woman" too.
I agree.
It's yeah, okay, and we're talking about movies too. So there you go, right? Um,
Well, speaking
so
of visual technology like movie, Roy Orbison, I believe, I may be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. He was the first hologram to be created to perform. Have you heard about how they have those holograms that perform
Yeah.
with a live band? I'm pretty sure his was the first. He was the first person to have that done. So it's a live band that performs with a hologram of the artist, and they've done it with Michael Jackson and some others.
Elvis.
But
Elvis and his daughter. Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Roy Orbison was the first. I may be wrong about that, but I don't think I am. If I am, somebody can correct me.
And he was in Traveling Wilburys. And can you believe it? George Harrison is gone now. You know, Tom Petty. So Jeff Lynne and Bob Dylan are left.
That's it. That's all that's left.
I love the Traveling Wilburys.
Me too. I'm sad that they had 2 albums.
I know, man. I grew up listening to them. You know, just my age group was like when they came out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just so
that was
chilled
what,
out. And then I think it was 1988.
Okay. All right.
And then he died in 1988, right after he founded it. Because remember, you may not have seen it, but in the video, the one music video, they have the chair rocking without his body in there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When he died in one of I can't remember which song, and then you hear him, but the chair is rocking. I think they just recorded it. He started it, and then he died during the beginning of the Traveling Wilburys. And they had a video of, like, you can see the chair rocking as though he was in there. And he smoked a lot. He had, like, he was hard in relationships, but he had that old school, like, there's that guy that Nudie, who does those rhinestone jackets and stuff, you know, in Nashville.
I don't know.
I don't know what they call it, but you know, those fancy ones that, you know, Elvis and stuff like that have. And he always had those jackets. And then if you listen to, like, if you heard the Black and White album, like where there was a recording video with Bruce Springsteen, Katie Leck, and Bonnie Raitt. I mean, yeah, sorry. Anyway, I could talk about Roy Orbison for the rest of my life. I adore his music.
Well, he should have sound like a smoker, man. I mean, that's a terrible thing for your voice, but he's got a clean pipes.
I know. I'll call him up and tell him you've got clean pipes. And Joey, the doctor, says so.
Hey.
I want to close. Hey, there's so much happening. I want to just give some quick shout outs to some birthdays. William Penn, the Admiral, like you got to think about Pennsylvania. James Buchanan, the 15th President of the United States, was born on this day, 1791. Artemus Ward, the comic writer and also considered to be America's first stand-up comedian, was born on this day in 1834. We got Granville T. Woods, the inventor, Max Planck, the physicist and Nobel Prize laureate, born in 1858. Shirley Temple, the actress and politician, born in 1928. So some birthdays there. And Lee Majors, the actor that I had a big crush on as a kid because he stood on top of a train. Yeah. Lee Majors, come on. 1939.
Yeah.
Ray Peterson, the singer, is born 1939. Sandra Dee, the actor, 1942. Joyce DeWitt, the actress, 1949. Michael Moore, the filmmaker that gets everybody pissed off, was born in 1954. Hey, listen, you can't make a documentary without people getting mad at you. Judy Davis, the actor, was born in 1955. Valerie Bertinelli, the actor, was born in 1960.
I'm such a fan.
She's cool, man. I like her. I like following her.
I would add her to my harem in a second.
Oh, he's got a harem. Joey's got a harem.
I mean, it's just a mental harem. But,
we got
anyway.
Jan Hooks, the actress. George Lopez, the actor and comedian, was born in 1961. And Dev Patel, the actor, in 1990. And Joey, we're going to close with a shout out to, in 1981, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins. They were in Germany at different festivals, and they went and joined Johnny Cash on this day, April 23rd, in 1981, on stage in Stuttgart for a performance that was recorded and put out as an album called The Survivors. And they toured together back in 1957, but they went like, hey, we're all in Germany, let's have a party and record it. And they did. And I'm a huge fan of Carl Perkins. Like,
sure.
I mean, did you ever hear the album with him and Mark Knopfler playing together?
I did.
Which I know.
Yep, I sure did. And you know, Carl Perkins also recorded at Sun Studio.
See?
To bring it all back.
See? Jerry Lee Lewis's sister was on our show. Linda Gill. She was on our show about maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year. Johnny Cash was never on our show though, and that would have been cool.
Oh yeah.
But I have high regard for all three of these musicians, and I did not know about this album until today. And
I have not heard of it either, so I'm excited to check it out.
yeah, it is 1981, and again called The Survivors. Look up Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and Johnny Cash. And I want to play this song, Matchbox. That is, well, I'm not going to play it now for you. You can check it out in the playlist. And everyone go check the whole album out. It's like, the Highwaymen with, Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and everyone getting together on stage because you've got that live
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah, I think it was
and
Waylon Jennings as well, was in that? Yeah.
Yep. But Matchbox is a song our band used to play, and I used to play it even on my own gigs. I used to go and play this solo like a nutball. But Matchbox is, I first learned Matchbox from the Beatles. I had an
Exactly.
Outtakes
Yes,
album.
Ringo sang that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it always kind of resonated to me as old school rock and roll, and so
Yeah.
Matchbox is on the playlist, so check it out. And we want to thank everyone for joining us today here on the Big Daily Blend. You can find us at bigblendradio.com. Keep up with Joey at joeystuckey.com. And thank you all. Thank you, Joey.
My pleasure as always.